Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel that's been much requested. This is another of the flea market finds that Scott has sent in. This is a Daiwa SS #1 2-ball bearing reel. This reel was made in Japan, and this is, I believe, the Seiko Daiwa, which is one of the earlier ones. Yeah, Daiwa Seiko, which is one of the earlier ones that Daiwa made. So we're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it. This one's in beautiful condition. It's an ultralight reel, and this one's best with 4, 6, 8, or 10 pound, and the sweet spot would be that 6 pound test. And we're going to show you how to do that. And if you have one of these, you'll know how to service it. If you're looking for one of these, you'll know how it's made, and you'll get an idea about the engineering behind it. We're going to start by removing the exterior pieces. One of the things I did was I removed that cap to see if this has a screw going through holding the handle on, and it does. So I've taken that outer cap off with a screwdriver, and now I'm taking that inner screw out so that I can remove the handle. Well, while I'm doing that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting videos. I post on all kinds of things, and well, you may find one that you like. By using that notification button, you can limit your searches, and you can see what's available for watching. Well, we took the handle out by pulling through on the handle side once we removed the screw, and now we can just simply give it a little shot of penetrating oil to loosen that handle up. Make sure that it spins nicely. And all my pieces and parts go into a parts tray. I use the bottom of a fast food container for that, but you can use whatever you like. When I do these reels, I want to make sure that I flip the switch to off if it has an override switch on it. That way, when I disassemble the reel, that anti-reverse dog is not going to get caught up in any of the pieces that may come off. If it does, well, I don't know this reel very well, and I would hate to try and go back and recreate how a spring or a dog is oriented without really knowing. So save yourself a lot of time, turn that switch to off, and that way if that anti-reverse dog is connected and sitting behind the main gear or something, it won't get dislodged when you go to pull the main gear or the case off. I'm removing the the 3 side plate screws right now. That'll give us access and a view into how the reel is made internally. And at the same time, I'm going to hold the case on for a moment, and I'm going to take the adjuster button for the drag off, and I'm going to remove the spool. We'll come back and service the spool later. This does say a 2-ball bearing reel. It seems like it's a beautiful reel in nice condition, and let's go see how it's made inside. Okay, well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to disengage the anti-reverse. Now, some of you are watching this because that anti-reverse dog got broken somehow, or detached, or whatever. Maybe you took it apart as part of a service, which you don't have to do. So let's just spend a second here. You have a spring that's lodged behind this post here. It wraps around the screw, comes out the other side, and is under this other arm, the trailing arm. So when this is engaged, we're in override mode right now, but when this is engaged, it will pull down, and that's the click click you will get. Okay, we've got a lot of old varnished grease on here. That's not unusual. That happens frequently when you have a reel that's gone into storage, and well, it just hasn't been taken care of. On the bottom here, you're going to notice that we have a Phillips head screw that's holding the axle shaft in place, so that is the next piece to be removed. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures, because if you don't know how this reel is made, you could wind up in trouble if you just simply keep pulling all the pieces and parts out, and then it comes time for reinstall, and well, you've forgotten where a piece or a part is gone. Those parts go into my parts tray too, and with that one done, I think there's only one in here. You can remove the axle shaft by pulling up now, since you've detached it from the crosswind block. That goes into my parts tray. With that piece off, now we should be able to remove the main gear. We'll push it out this way and just having trouble grabbing it. There we go. And as I was kind of mentioning, it was kind of funny how we did that. But that happens sometimes. If you're struggling with something, it's real easy to knock these pieces and parts off because you weren't paying attention. So that's why we keep these things separate as best we can. We have our bearing here. I'm just going to wipe that bearing off. It's got a little bit of dirt on it. And that's kind of an open race bearing there, so we're just going to flood it with oil. And I'm going to let that sit in my parts tray. This is our crosswind block. We just took that off. I'm going to put that next to the screw that holds the axle shaft. And, well, here's what happens over time. Greases evaporate or they dry. Kind of got a good example of both here. The evaporation has left all of these tracks without any grease in them. Inspect those tracks, make sure that they're all uniform, that they have nice ridges and the like. And same thing on the back here. That's going to drive our oscillation gear, which will make the spool go up and down. Make sure it's not missing any pieces and parts. Then we have a little bit of the old lacquered or dried grease on the face of this gear as well. So I'm going to use some penetrating oil and a cotton swab. Penetrating oil will loosen that varnish up. And notice that there is a shim washer still on the axle shaft there. This ridge here is not a gear. This ridge is going to hold the anti-reverse dog to stop it from backpedaling. When we look at the rest of the reel now, we have an oscillation gear. We're going to remove that. The case is very clean, but this is your opportunity to clean it further. And there was just a little bit of old grease hanging around in that little recess there. We have a bushing on the back of this reel, which means that gear number, or bearing number 2 is going to be up top here. We're going to remove that. The rotor nut is a 10mm nut, and it comes off in a traditional counterclockwise manner. Now we're going to remove the rotor. This is what I call a bang bail, in that there is no trip lever on this. This rotor is going to bang against the side plate, and that's what's going to cause it to trip. So just like we've been doing with some of the other pieces, I've used penetrating oil, and now I'm just going to work that through a little bit here, making sure that it snaps back. Work it through, and that way it's going to enable you to maximize the throw of that bail. I am noticing that there's a little bit of some dirt here on the post. I'll go in there and try and clean that out as well. And now I'm throw some oil on there. I don't use penetrating oil as a lubricant. I use it as a degreaser. There we go. Okay, that's working fine. There's a little bend to it. We'll see if it affects it in a little bit. There's 3 screws that are holding that pinion gear and bearing on, so let's take those off. I'm going to take my pieces that I've got laying on my table here, put those into my parts tray just as good practice. The big pieces like the rotor, don't need to concern yourself with that. You generally will not lose that. But if you have the ability to lose that, we'll go put that in the parts tray too. Just like we did with the side plate screws and that, we're going to take the 3 of these out, lay them on the table. Make sure they're all the same size. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you're thinking about buying one, maybe you just want to learn a little bit more about Japanese reels in the 1970s, whatever it is, if you leave those questions in this comment section, I will try to get you answers to them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll try and point you to it. The collar for the bearing seems to be universal, any side will fit. The 3 screws are the same size, so I'm going to pick those up and put those in the corner of my parts tray as well. Hopefully we'll just be able to pull this out. We were. That's always a good thing. You want to remove the bearing, and we're going to clean the pinion gear now. This pinion gear does have some old grease on it. I'm using a hard bristle brush, and I'm scraping it onto a paper towel. You can see the old grease coming off. And then I want to just check it now and make sure that all of the teeth are uniform and that there's no grease stuck in the track. We're good there. Same thing here with this bearing. We can see it's an open race. You can see the little ball bearings underneath it. I'm going to put oil into that. I'm going to use fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease here. And I recommend that you only use fishing reel grease as you service your fishing reels. And we're just going to get a nice coating of grease in here, because it hasn't seen grease in quite some time. Get a little bit of grease where that inner race of the bearing is going to ride. Let's take the bearing now, put that back on, and we can reinstall this assembly into the case. Let's grab the triangular collar, line those up, and go to the parts tray to get those 3 screws. Well, those of you that know me in little pieces and parts, we don't play very well together. My hands are too big, the parts are too small. But this one has at least a little bit of a shoulder where you can set the screw. When you get that first one in, don't tighten it down all the way. You do need a little bit of room to center the other 2 holes. If you're having trouble, if this keeps falling out, use a little bit of fishing reel grease. It acts as a temporary glue to hold that to the nib of your screwdriver, and it makes it a little bit easier to set these things. One more to go, which is good because there's only one more hole left on the top here. And as you can see, because it doesn't have a trip lever setup in the top end here, it's pretty easy. Once you do that, we can reinstall the rotor. Again, you don't need to take the bail off when you're servicing the reel. Only take the bail off if something's jammed or broken, or you feel like spending another half an hour or so resetting the bail springs. I'm going to tighten that up by hand because I don't want to cross strip, and then we'll complete the tightening with the turn of that 10mm nut. Give it a spin. It spins beautifully. And here's what I mean by the bump bail, or the bang bail. It's going to hit this red spot here, and that's going to flip the bail. Alright, time to kind of finish up a little bit of this thing. We want to get our oscillation gear next. We're going in reverse order of the way that we took these things out. The oscillation gear needs to be lubricated or greased on all sides. This is going to ride against the back of the case and that stud. The teeth inside, on the side, are going to go with the back drive of the main gear. And the front, well, that crosswind block is going to rotate up and down on that. Go ahead and take that crosswind block. The channel needs to be clean, and then get some on the face of that. And when you go to install this, make sure that the stud on the oscillation gear is all the way down low, because you're going to have to attach the axle shaft with that little Phillips head screw, and you're not going to be able to do that if it's riding high. This one does have an anti-reverse override, so I guess you could backpedal the reel, bring it down, but sometimes some of the reels now with the instant anti-reverse do not have that override, and well, a Penn reel is a good example. If you're working on a Penn Fierce, you may find yourself in trouble if you don't set that stud low. Main gears have been greased, front and back. I'm going to work that in now, and we'll take our axle shaft, which has been cleaned, a little bit of grease on that, just a light coat, because as it goes through the pinion gear, anything more than that is going to jam it up. Bring that down, center your crosswind block, bring it down so that the hole in the crosswind block lines up with the hole in the axle shaft. Go to your parts tray, get this small tie down screw. Again, a little bit of fishing reel grease as a stud on that tip of your screwdriver will help to hold it temporarily. Alright, you don't grease the teeth for the anti-reverse. Our anti-reverse is pretty much in place. Let's grab the bearing that we had that we've oiled already. We'll put that on the main shaft. And we should be able to slide this in. Now when you're going to slide this in, we're in the off position, but you do need to push down on your case to load this off. And you'll see what happens here. Sometimes you can do it. Sometimes just kind of lining it up and turning it backwards will seat that. And sometimes you just need to visually reset this. And that's what I did here. I just visually reset it. We should be in good condition. I'm going to hold it. We'll turn. And we've got it. Okay. Very good. Let's go get those 3 side plate screws. And this is where that use of a parts tray really helps. Not only does it let you know that you've got your pieces there, it also lets you know if you forgot to put a piece in. Every now and then somebody will comment on my video, hey, you missed that piece. And I may have missed it doing installation, but as soon as I look at it in my parts tray, well, I kind of recall I know that. Just checking the function before I go tightening this down. That was the anti-reverse dog you were hearing there. And again, normally if you had more than 3 screws that were kind of equidistant, you would alternate left and right and top and bottom screws to keep the torque on this okay. In this case they're all equidistant, so not much you need to do here. Just finished tightening up those screws now. Be careful not to cross strip them. So Seiko, Daiwa Seiko. Yep, that's the watchmaker. It's interesting how a lot of the fishing reels through history have been made by clockmakers or watchmakers or other types of folks, sewing machine manufacturer type people, precision instrument type things. Alright, last thing we want to do is check our drag washers for this. There's a 5-sided spring that sits here in a ridge, so go ahead and bring that out. It is a spring. Be careful as you grab it, make sure it doesn't shoot. And I'll just lay that on the table here. I'm going to pull those drag washers out. See what we have. First thing you want to do is clean the cavity. So get all the greases and the like out of there. We have hard washers. So with hard washers, this one's a Teflon washer. You don't do anything. It's self-lubricating. It's non-permeable. So there's nothing to be done with those other than clean off the old dirts that have gotten on there. Now, dirt gets on there pretty easily. It's a top drag reel, and it gets on there because when the line is coming in over the sides of the spool, it throws water into this cup. The water has nowhere to go but down, and that water brings all of its dirt onto the washers. The middle washer has the 2 points on it. It's called an eared washer. It belongs in the middle. The other 2 have a rectangular center to grasp the axle shaft. Those are called keyed washers. Want to get those in, and now we can take the tie-down spring, set it in one groove, and walk it around. Make sure that it seats in all of the grooves. There we go. And that's a retention clip. If you've lost it, if it somehow has jumped off, and you've been searching day and night, you don't have to worry too much. The only purpose of it is to keep that drag stack in place, and as long as you have the drag adjuster button on there, you're fine. But if you go to change your spool or take it off, realize that those washers are going to fall out, and know how you need to do it in order to keep them from disappearing on you. Alright, there's just one more thing to do. I'm going to wipe down the reel. One of the problems with these gloves is that the glove that holds the greases transfers them back onto the case. This was set up as a left-handed crank reel. In this case, this reel can go either way. It can be left or right-handed crank. All you would do is change the position of the handle, just like we're doing here. Just insert the handle from the other side if you want to make that a right-handed crank reel. That's kind of advanced for the 70s. Prior to that, most of the reels were made specifically for right or left-handed drive reels. One more piece remains in my tray, and that's the big screw cap. I'll get that on. And you saw me using a big screwdriver for this one. You want to match the blade of your screwdriver to the slot of the screw. All right, let's give it a test. Well, that's certainly working nice. I'm hearing the anti-reverse working, that's for sure. Let's put the anti-reverse into override so you bring it both ways. And let's do a slam of that bail, make sure that it closes. Closes with little or no effort, which is the way that that's supposed to work. Scott, you picked up a beauty. Thanks for sharing it. This is the Daiwa SS #1, a light-duty pond reel from the Silver Series. And very nice one indeed, 2 ball bearings and the like. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. Police, fire, first aid, rescue, all of those. Thank you for everything. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching. Keep your reels tuned up. The fish bite is on. It's time to go fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.